Students are more ready to lead than we think they are. Today, we're going to talk about how to make your ministry more student-led than adult-led. Well, hey, this is Mark.
This is Kevin.
And this is Go to the Campus with Cru, where we talk about how to reach teenagers for Christ on a high school campus.
Mark, today's subject is fundamental. It is one of our core principles, and if followed, I think it could be one of the most dynamic experiences for adults who work with teenagers.
Yeah, I totally agree. Today we're talking about how our ministries are student-led and adult-directed and what that means. It is, like you said, Kevin, a core concept. In fact, it's one of the Cru Core Concepts in our Cru Core Concept series that we're talking about here to help people better understand the foundations of the high school ministry of Cru.
Mark, I came across a great quote the other day. It said, Jesus called Peter the rock long before he deserved the name. And I was thinking about that in relation to the high school students and the middle school students that we try to empower to do the work God's called them to. And when I think of Peter, he obviously, Jesus had this plan all along that he would be the rock, but he continued to put Peter in places where it didn't look so good. And but he believed in Peter.
Yeah, you know, if you wait for someone to be ready to give them more responsibility, you'll be waiting forever. They rise to the occasion. When I think about ministry, I would rather have a small ragtag group of students that are leading a ministry than a well-oiled machine of a ministry run by adults. Because so much happens when a student steps up to lead. It's just way too valuable. And frankly, this will turn into a well-oiled machine run by students before long if you let students lead well. That's just how it works.
That's right. All right, Mark, what's our first point today?
Well, the first thing is that students can lead. We often don't believe that they can do it, and we think that what we do is so high above what they do that we relegate them to being an audience and maybe stepping in once in a while to do a little task, but not really lead. And in reality, they're capable of much more than we think they are. In fact, most other clubs on campus get that, or sports on campus get that, and they're having their students lead. But a lot of times in the campus ministry, we try to do everything for them. We're so concerned that it's got to be a high quality thing, and we don't let the students lead. But students are very capable of leading very well.
No, that's great. It's a tragedy when students are under challenged.
Yep.
So our second point is they actually grow through delegated responsibilities. And I say responsibilities versus tasks. It's so easy to give a student a task and then they complete it, give them another task, they complete it. But when students feel the weight of responsibility, that develops them and grows them internally and their confidence. And oftentimes that leads to them even thinking more about spiritual multiplication in the lives of their friends as well.
Yeah, I would say the third thing is that they know their world better than we do. And I've just seen this play out over and over again over the years where I have an idea of something that could work on their campus, but I don't live on their campus. I don't have their friends. They do. They know the small changes that are happening in their culture so much better than I do. So when I let them lead, them decide what we're going to do, how we're going to reach their friends, and I guide them in that, they make fantastic decisions. And they also bring their friends because what they're creating is cool, and they want their friends to be a part of it.
Oh, that's good. Hey, fourth point. We are building our next generation. I always like to look at a student and think, what are they going to be like, and what are they going to be doing in 10 years? My hope and my prayer is that they are going to be turning back and investing in the lives of younger people as well.
Yeah.
So when I build them the right way, when I build them with the principles that we're talking about, there's a likelihood that this will continue on from generation to generation. That's
great. Hey, the fifth point about this, that we're student-led and adult-directed, is that their voice has power. I can't tell you how many times I've put a student up front and he's given a talk, a terrible talk, but the students loved it, even though it was a little messy, right? Exactly. I stand up and just give this eloquent talk about something and they're like, yeah, it was all right. But when a student does, they listen. And not only up front, but anywhere, a student has power among his peers. And if we can help students not only own their faith, but own the ministry on the campus, many of their peers will respond, and because they have a very powerful voice.
How many times I've stepped into a meeting and a student is sharing what their life and their story, you can't hear a pin drop.
Yes.
It's like they are in rapt attention.
Yeah.
They have deep respect for a student, willing to open themselves up and to lead on that level.
Absolutely.
And their ears open up. It's amazing. Hey, the final point is, on many campuses, adults aren't able to be there and they can't lead.
Yeah.
And so what a great opportunity we have to build students into leaders who can take responsibility and run with it.
Yeah, I totally agree, Kevin. So these are some of the reasons that we say student-led, adult-directed. But let's talk about a few principles of how to help students lead. How do we allow students to step up? So the first one is cast vision. Help them believe that they can do that, because a lot of times we're asking them to do something that's kind of big for them. So tell them, cast vision, give them some direction, but help them know that they can do it. And one of the most effective ways that I've found to cast vision is to get other leaders up front. And it seems that when I have a junior or a senior up front, the sophomores and freshmen that are watching say, I want to do that when I get there. They believe before I even ask them that they can do that. In fact, by the time they get to be juniors and seniors, they're saying, how can I be the guy that does that? How can I lead? So get other leaders up front.
You build a generation upon generation of leaders.
Yes,
fantastic.
Yes, it is.
Hey, the second principle is delegate responsibility. And I mentioned that before. And I think what we need to remember is the responsibility that you give them may not be played out as polished as you might think it should be. But there are areas of ministry that you can give them. For instance, students can be in charge of the games at your meeting. They can be in charge of worship. Students can be small group leaders. The question to ask yourself is very simple. If this student didn't do that responsibility, it wouldn't be done. And I think they have to feel that responsibility too. They have to come through. When they feel that kind of responsibility and weight of that, it builds them into leaders.
That's good. Yeah, the weight of responsibility calls them up into responsibility. And the last thing is to reward their faithfulness. Not rewarding their results necessarily, but just their faithfulness in doing it. And sometimes they're going to step up to something and just knock it out of the park. It'll be fantastic. Other times they will step up to do something and it won't go so well, but they were faithful. They said, I'll try this, and they did it. And reward that. Immediately when someone comes off the stage, I am walking with them, talking about how well they did and encouraging them and giving them perspective and talking about how what they did impacted the lives of others. Give them that kind of encouragement and reward them, and give them other responsibility. You did so well with this. Why don't you do this? I mean, this is what Jesus talks about in his parables. This is exactly what we need to be doing with our students.
Great point, Mark. Hey, here's the challenge that we want to give you. This week, start the process of turning over responsibilities to students who are ready to receive it. And Mark, we always talk about fat disciples, faithful, available, teachable. That's not a bad grid to look at as we consider giving these kinds of responsibilities over.
Totally agree. You know, there's a book that I've found very helpful in helping me learn how to turn things over to teenagers. And it's called simply Ministry by Teenagers by Jonathan McKee. Highly encourage you to check it out, pick it up. His website, The Source for Youth Ministry, has been a fantastic resource for me. He produces some great, very practical books like this one. I would encourage you to check it out and turn more ministry over to the teenagers around you.
It's fantastic. Hey, so if you've liked what you've heard, feel free to subscribe to our community. Like us, share this video with others. We want to get this word out. We want to see more students enter the kingdom, be built in their faith, be sent as disciples on their campus. Great. So this has been Kevin.
And Mark.
And this has been Go to the Campus with Cru.
And remember, when in doubt,
go to the campus.